Welcome to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers, newbies, and veterans, and everyone in between. We're hosted by M.A. Lee with the assistance of Remy Black and Edie Rooms, all from Writers Inc. Books. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Each episode lasts as long as it takes to fix a quick dinner, drive a short commute, or take a brisk walk. Resources and links are in the show notes. Visit us at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Now, on to this week's episode. Welcome to our autumn series, Fall into Poetry. Here where I live, it's not anywhere near fall. But this series is one way I can feed that devouring desperation for the cooler weather. This season, we have poets who also write fiction, and that informs the direction of our episodes. While we may weave multiple strands of our writing, we create a tapestry that depicts creative writing at its best. Many, many threads in a variety of writing styles, black and white nonfiction, the red-hot colors of mystery, the blues and purples of speculative fiction like fantasy and science fiction, and the glorious greens that run through all of our writing. We start our first interview with Joan Leotta, whose first publication, occurred at the age of 14 with a poem. Life has offered Joan many, many opportunities for writing, and she wove all of those diverse threads into a glorious tapestry whose desire and passion worked well with duty and her obligations. Let's begin our interview with Joan Leotta. After a bit of a chat, we start off with organization or disorganization, as the case may be.
I know. I find that I used to be, well, I've never been like what you'd call normally organized. I have always had my own little organization pattern,
Yeah.
which doesn't look like anything to anybody else. But I seem to be not, misplacing my notes on where to submit things, which is probably good but I have a stack like that of things to revise.
I
So
have to
whatever,
have
but
I have a stack on my desk that is things like that, but I have found clipboards. I have like 6 or 7 clipboards that I put things on. Uh, and that
That's a
has
good
been very
idea.
helpful. I have my clipboards for the house. I have a clipboard for the office stuff. I have a clipboard for taking care of my Bible stuff. I have a clipboard for these interviews. I have a clipboard for writing. If I can't find my clipboards, then I panic.
Well, a clipboard might be a good idea for me for it's really the submission places that I forget.
Mhm.
I have no lack of ideas,
Right.
for short stories or poems or
Mhm.
essays or anything. Sometimes something starts as one thing and ends up as another. But I um sometimes I see something and I use it as a prompt and then I go to look for it and I wrote it down, but I don't remember where I put it down, or maybe I didn't write it down. And so anyway, but I still manage to submit at least one or two things a week somewhere,
Right.
usually poems, short stories, because they take longer to revise.
Yes. Yes. I just finished revising and proofreading a short story, and I thought I would knock it out very rapidly, but it took me over 10 days to get everything done.
Yeah.
Primarily because I like to do the first one and then wait 2 or 3 days. And so I had some other things that I needed to do. And so I put that between the first read through and the second read through. And then usually I go straight to the third read through, but no, not this time. And I made at least 1,000 words worth of changes between the second and the third one. So that was massive for me. So it went from
I know.
14,000
I
words,
know
which
what you
is not
mean.
really a short story, to 15,000 words. And I'm going like, I guess I'll have to call it a novelette.
Well, yeah, there's lots of markets right now for novellas, so.
Yes. Yes.
You should find a good place for it.
Okay,
But
let me.
I'm just so impressed by you.
Oh,
After
thank
hearing
you.
50 books, wow, when you're
Yes.
talking to Paul.
Yes. Under three different pen names, and I was greatly helped because when I started publishing, I already had like four or five manuscripts that I had submitted to
Um,
traditional publishers, and they rejected them. Not enough sex. And I'm going like, I'm not going to add that to the story.
um,
Or one of my pen names is
yeah.
fantasies, not enough magic. And I'm going like, there's, she's developing her magic, so I can't just have it start immediately kind of thing. And so I thought, you know what? I don't do what traditional publishers are looking for. Why don't I just publish them myself? And so that's when I started, I was able to put out quite a number, and then I was on fire. And so I, published like nine in 1 year. And I thought, I can do this, I can do this. But never again have I published nine in 1 year. So,
That's a lot.
yes, that was quite a lot, quite a lot. Okay, let's get started. If you see me looking over here, I'm looking at my phone because I've set a timer so we won't go over our
Okay.
time. Uh, and let's just start with the first question, which is how has writing poetry made you a better fiction writer? How do you see that? That's a
Well,
hard question.
it teaches me, yeah, it teaches me to be more aware of each word
Yes.
and the value of each word.
Hmm.
So when I'm writing, a lot of times a short story or a novel, um, I'm trying to get everything down. I'm trying to
Hmm.
focus on characters. I'm thinking about the plot, and then though when I go to revision, I'm like, aha, I can't believe I used the same word 10 times, or why did I say that? I could have said that in one word instead of a paragraph, or
Hmm.
maybe dialogue instead of description, or so, but poetry keeps me focused on the value of each word.
Yes.
And that's why also the value of form. And I've gone to writing a lot of haiku recently to teach me the value of conciseness.
Yes.
I just recently had one published yesterday, in fact, in Haiku Universe. I don't know if you
Hmm.
saw it. Um, and then but also I'm kind of keeping in the back of my head the process of some other fiction writers who I admire, especially in mysteries.
Hmm.
And I think especially of Camilleri, an Italian writer, who he was like a multi-talented guy. He wrote for TV and all that before
Hmm.
his big series
Hmm.
came out, Spectre Montalbano. But the books are all the same. I didn't realize that before because he's so masterful. Each chapter is 10,000 words, and
Wow.
he
I could
knocks
not
it
do
out
that.
one at a time.
Hmm.
You know, and I mean, he just very disciplined, and he thinks about them in sets of 10. And so each book has 10 chapters.
Hmm.
And it's just, I thought, oh, wow, to think of the process. So he has a form. So I look poetry forms. I was thinking I might ambitiously try a different form each week, more like a different form each month this
It's like a
summer. And I've
challenge.
skipped June and June and July.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I have tried different forms, and I tried a villanelle in the spring, and I got a couple published, and
Hmm.
but it's not a form that feels natural to me. So the
Right.
haiku does,
Yes.
and tanka does too, but not quite. I haven't
I
quite
don't know
caught
that
that one, I don't
form.
think.
Tonka?
The tanka's 5 lines, and it has
Hmm.
its own requirements for syllable length and so on. Very short, so that's why it appealed to me, because I thought it would, push in on brevity even more. But
Right.
I just I don't seem to resonate with it.
Hmm.
Whereas the haiku resonates, and so does the form called haibun,
I don't
which
know that
is
one.
a prose piece, and then it ends with a haiku. It
Ah.
sort of summarizes or takes it another direction. So that's sometimes I'll do a poem and then I turn it into a piece of flash fiction or flash nonfiction.
Hmm.
And then I find that it just doesn't seem right. And a couple of them have then succeeded as haibun,
Right.
where the prose piece stays almost the same, but I take some critical elements and put them in that final haiku to not only summarize my feeling, but it also is another way of opening it to the reader
Right.
because I find that I tend to overtalk. Can you tell? And
No, you're not
and
over talking.
yeah, and so I want to let the reader in. You know, as a performer on stage, I'm always trying to find ways to let my audience in. So
Hmm.
doing that on paper though is a little harder because I can't see the eyes. I have to imagine the eyes of the reader.
Right.
Imagine what the reader might be thinking. Imagine what I think as a reader.
Hmm.
You know, go back to what would I think as a reader to look at this piece? Am I letting the reader in, or am I trying to explain everything for the reader? So, I know that I like to be thought of as an intelligent person who can think for herself. So, I like my readers to be too. And I did do four novels for adults, and also they could be older teens, and they were published by Desert Breeze. And they were a wonderful publisher. And I'm using the past tense because they went out of business.
Oh, oh, that hurts.
And so all of my books are out of print. I bought back the rights. I bought
Hmm.
back the covers even because the cover artist that they assigned me was wonderful.
Hmm.
And I keep saying, well, I'm going to reprint them. I'm going to do them myself on
Hmm.
Amazon or whatever. And I never do. I haven't done it yet. I have a picture. I also have four children's books, the same thing. May I share the screen or is that,
Yeah, yes, yes,
may I share the screen? Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes.
I couldn't quite, I didn't hear you. Sorry. Let's see. Oh, it says send request. Screen sharing's not turned on. I'll send you a
Here
request
it comes.
so then you can approve it. Okay. All righty. So now screen share. Hello. Here we go. I just made up a little thing today to show you. Hello, there it is. So I could do it. So there's my four novels. Julia Goes to War, Letters
I'm
from
not seeing
Korea, A Bowl of
anything.
Rice.
Oh, there they are.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So they are about the same family. She wanted a series.
Hmm.
I approached her with Julia Goes to War,
Yes.
the editor of Desert Breeze. And she said, well, I like that, but I want you to make it into a four series. Really, it should have been a three-book series,
Hmm.
but I was committed to a four-book series by contract.
Right.
So in Secrets of the Heart, I stuffed the first half with a prequel, which was really kind of like a long short story. And then the
Yes.
second half of the book kind of takes up where A Bowl of Rice lets off because I didn't have enough material.
Hmm.
Thoughts. I was so tired of those characters. So
Hmm.
I wrote a little, each one of them contains either a thing about spies or a mystery, mostly a spy thing.
Yes.
Because when they're set, they're women in the time of war. Julia is on the home front. Letters from Korea, my her sister is on the home front, and the
Hmm.
model for the cover is my mother.
Oh, how neat.
And uh, yeah, and A Bowl of Rice is the Vietnam era,
Hmm.
and in that one, I killed off one of my main characters.
Ah!
And yes, I can tell you now. I mean, spoiler alert. The editor, the woman who edited it, was in tears when she read
Oh.
it. I really consider it to be the best one of the four, although people seem to like Julia best. And then Secrets of the Heart, the cover won a contest. I didn't, but the cover did. And so it got a lot of publicity. But once Desert Breeze went out of business, I lost my Amazon connection for them. They're still listed there. That's where I picked up these pictures this morning. It was the most convenient place. And then the other four, same thing. I went with a small publisher in the Midwest for Whoosh,
Mhm.
and I asked to have the main character be ambivalent
Hmm.
in terms of race and so on. I named her
Right.
Rose because I wanted her to appeal to a wide variety. And instead, the woman definitely made her African American, and I have no say in it. And it's offensive to some African Americans that a white woman wrote a book with an African American main character as a child. And that's not what I intended.
Right.
They're all based on my, really, except
Hmm.
for Rosa and the Red Apron, because I never did chores. And and
Lucky
but
you.
yeah, but so I have these books back, and the woman very nicely, the illustrator, who was, by the way, related to the publisher, so they would accept no comments from me
Right.
on everything.
Yeah.
So I had signed the contract and I learned a lot of lessons, but I have all the rights to these back. So if I ever wanted to turn them into a four-book compilation, which is what
Right.
I would like to do, if I ever had the energy, I could. But anyway, they have five-star reviews, few, but five-star. And they're really, children love them when they read them. But again, I'm just too, we moved from North Carolina to, I'll stop the sharing now. Um, we moved from North Carolina to Virginia last year, and
Right.
we're renting. So
Yes.
even though we're up here in Virginia now we have the whole process of trying to get ready to buy a house, buy a condo, which is, so I'm really distracted by a lot of that. So it
Yes.
keeps me from doing those projects, which are kind of on the back burner because in a way they're done,
Yes.
even though they need resurrection.
Hmm. I have the same problem. I have a couple of things that I need to deal with them, but I have other things that are pressing that has to be dealt with now. And so those
Yes.
just keep getting pushed back.
Yeah.
And so I'm
And
going
as
like,
a performer,
yes,
that takes time away from writing, but it's also feeds into the writing and is related to the writing. So, for instance, this past June, I performed at the Hans Christian Andersen statue in New York City, and that was a lot of fun and something I'd wanted to do for years. And finally, the woman who runs it said, "Okay, you can come this year." So I went.
yay!
Yeah, it was great. And my daughter came with me, which made it even more fun. My husband wasn't up to going. We had just been to Boston together, and he didn't want to go again. So our daughter came, and so that was fun. And I also have a big project where I speak as Louisa May Alcott,
Hmm.
and I highlight her time during the Civil War, when she was a nurse, and how that was really a springboard for her to writing Little Women, and how Little Women then helped unify the country after the Civil War.
Right. Yeah.
So I talk about that, and I'm also talking about her life as a daughter and a
Hmm.
sister. She was an accomplished seamstress.
Yes.
She was really a woman, a worker for women's rights.
Hmm.
She was a worker for, she was an anti-slavery advocate well before other people were. So, she's a great person of mine, and I do her performances, but publicizing her and performing her takes a lot of time too.
Yes.
So so there's a lot of different things. Although I'm working on a short story where I have a character interact with her too.
Mhm.
So that I'm thinking might even become a novel. I'm thinking about it as a young adult or middle grade novel.
Right.
So capitalizing the audience for Little Women. So I don't know. I haven't done as much work on it as I should.
Have you thought about doing, since you know so much about Louisa May Alcott, have you thought about doing like a series of short stories that would progress her through her life?
I didn't think of that. No, that's a great idea. I like that, Emily. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I could have a friend of hers, a fictional friend,
Yes.
uh, work on, that with her that would take him through her life. That's a great idea.
Yes.
I'm
And you
always
could,
open to ideas.
yes, we all are always open to ideas. Um, How did you get into doing the poetry since you have the fiction ideas and you have the performance aspect that you like to do? How did you get into poetry itself?
Well, my first published piece for pay when I was 14 was a poem.
Ah.
Okay. My father liked poetry, but he said, don't become a poet because it doesn't pay. Although, see, my first paid piece was a poem. And same price poems get now, $10. And and it was the Hornbook magazine, which is a magazine for librarians,
Hmm.
used to have a section where they published work by children
Right.
and by high schoolers. And my teacher gave my best friend the address. I was really ticked that she hadn't given it to me as well, but that's okay. I badgered my best friend. She gave it to me and I sent it in. In those days, mailing everything and all of that.
Yeah.
So, and they published mine even before they published my friends. They did publish my friends as well.
Hmm.
And then they published something else of mine, but they wouldn't do more than two from one person.
Right.
And even though they were a couple years apart, and then I aged out. So then
Hmm.
I did a lot of nonfiction writing, a lot of journalism. I was started out as a journalism major at Ohio University, and I'm from Pittsburgh, so Ohio U was close by,
Right.
and it was also the third best journalism school in the country at the time. I
Hmm.
was really fortunate because it also didn't cost much, and my father lost his business the year I
Ah.
went to college.
Hmm.
So, I worked as a journalism major for 2 years and developed a lot of good skills that contribute to fiction, that contribute to poetry, that contribute to performance. And then because it was the 60s, hello, I changed majors and majored in political science because I was more relevant. So I could have things to write about, not just learn about writing.
Right.
So whatever. And I thought maybe I'd go to grad school in radio, TV journalism, not wanting to be on camera though,
Hmm.
because even though I loved acting and I had taken acting lessons in grade school and done acting and directing in high school, um, I was too fat, although not that fat. I mean, about the same as I am now. And but I'm a brunette. That time, those were things that were not acceptable on television.
They
You
wanted
had to be a
everybody
mock
blonde,
skinny
everybody
blonde.
skinny. Um,
Yeah, and everybody blonde.
yes. Yeah.
And so whether they were bottle blonde or not, but I mean, I wasn't about to, I'm letting my hair go gray now, and that's the closest I'll ever come. But I wasn't up for that, but I did like the idea of directing
Hmm.
and working behind the scenes. But when it came time for grad school, I really decided that I was going to stick with international relations and economics.
Right.
And I did graduate work in international relations and economics at Johns Hopkins, which is totally apart from any of the what you would think of. But I used to spend my time in the library instead of studying the economics of a country, looking for the folklore of the country and making stories about it.
Right.
Getting upset with what the professors were saying about that they weren't considering the culture of the country and the arts of the country in their, things. And so I kind
Well,
of
it
was
was
in the
hard.
wrong
It was
field.
hard to measure. Um,
Yes,
I can
hard to
remember
measure.
professors of that age. They wanted to measure and quantify everything.
I
Um,
had one professor who, in the honors college where I introduced my essay on Appalachia, which is Ohio U is in one of the poorest parts of Ohio,
mhm.
Southeastern Ohio.
Yeah.
And I did an essay on that, and I opened it with a poem, a short poem of my own. And he loved that poem, gave me an A. And the other people in the class were like really annoyed because they had charts and graphs and everything else, and I got an A. So, and then in grad school, at Hopkins, they had a thing where you had to do a language as well as everything else you did.
Mhm.
So I did Spanish first because I studied in Spain my senior year in
Mhm.
college, all on scholarships. My father wasn't doing that well. And then I picked Johns Hopkins because it was a 2-year master's program
Mhm.
with no thesis, but if you were in European studies, which I was, you could spend a year in Italy, which I wanted to. So So, so I did Spanish, and then I also did Italian. I learned
Hmm.
Italian while I was there because my father refused to teach me Italian. My maiden name is Di Leonardo. Leotta
Hmm.
is my husband's name, but
Yes.
he's Italian American also, but he doesn't speak Italian. So both of our parents, although his parents actually did want to teach him, but he didn't want to learn. I wanted to learn, but my father said, "Oh, Italian is not an important language. You shouldn't bother with it." And my father came up during the 20s,
Yes.
and he immigrated to America in a time when Italians were very heavily discriminated against.
It was very important to assimilate.
It was very important to assimilate, and Italians especially because we were darker, we were olive,
Hmm.
Roman Catholics a lot, and although I'm Presbyterian now, but hello. And you know, the so he, that was all. So I, though, made it my business to learn Italian well enough to pass the Foreign Service exam.
Right.
And so then I went to work for the Department of Labor, and uh, and I wrote mostly nonfiction. I put my fiction and poetry aside and my performance. I thought I might do some amateur theatrics while I was in
Hmm.
DC, but my job took like 70 hours a week,
Yes.
contrary to what most people think about federal workers. Federal workers are a hardworking lot, and I didn't get paid overtime. I just was working for a mission that I believed in.
Right.
And so then after I got married and my children came along, our children,
Hmm.
my husband said, I earn enough that you could stay home. And we both had working mothers, and we decided we bought our house only on his income. And then I stayed home with our daughter, a decision, and then our son, a decision I never will regret, even though I have no pension or anything.
Right.
And because it was wonderful. They were wonderful times. My kids were great. And I started to, though, get like, well, I'd like to do something. And I started to write for newspapers.
Hmm.
And I
Back to
wrote a
the
lot of fiction. I
journalism.
wrote a lot of travel,
Right.
back to the journalism. And then I started to do some things for children, poetry for
Right.
children.
Hmm.
And I sent them out to children's magazines. And I got several were accepted. And then I saw a guy come and perform as a story performer. And I thought, wow, I could do that. So I called up the Kennedy Center and they had class for teaching you to be a professional storyteller
Hmm.
at the time. And
Right.
I took a class there and I set out my shingle. And so I worked from home as a writer and a
Hmm.
story performer. And then my father died when my children were 7 and 5.
Yeah.
And he was the first of their grandparents to
Mhm.
die. I was older and my parents were older. Joe was the youngest, though his parents were older too. And when my father died, the only way I could express my feelings for my father was in a poem. And I sent it out afterwards because that's what I do. If I
Mhm.
write something, unless I'm writing it in a journal where it stays in a journal handwritten, if I type it, it's going to go out. And it was accepted and it kind of opened the doors to poetry and creative writing
Right.
again. However, since I needed to earn money to supplement, because Fairfax County, which is where I live now, but where we lived then, is a very expensive area to live in. And
Yes.
so
My
I did
sister
a
lived
lot
there a
of,
little while and it was like,
yeah,
whoa. She was in
yeah.
Annandale.
Yes. Well, we lived in Burke, not
Hmm.
far from Annandale. And we went to church in McLean. So we knew a lot of people in Annandale.
Hmm.
But so I did, a lot more writing that brought in money,
Hmm.
you know. Uh, and but then when my husband retired and we moved to North Carolina, well, I kind of retired, although I couldn't leave journalism entirely, but I did food journalism, which was so much fun, so much fun, so much fun. And I still do that on a volunteer basis, actually, for a senior magazine in Brunswick County, North Carolina. And but I started to write fiction and more poetry and sending it out. So that's kind of more than you probably wanted to know.
I like how everything went in different directions, and then all the threads just came together to weave a new fabric, one could say, of your
Yeah,
life and everything. Do you
exactly.
have anything besides the poetry that you're constantly putting out and the performances that you do and the books that are out of print? Do you have anything that that people could, I guess what I'm asking is, do you have anything that's out that you would like to promote? Do you have anything that the viewers, because we're down to like
Well,
3 minutes.
the poetry book, and I can send you the links for that.
Okay, great.
Uh, the two, and then I have free or on origami poetry.
Hmm.
They're little mini poetry books that you can probably take, and those are great. And if you just put my name in Google,
Hmm.
it'll come up with people can access performances of mine on YouTube. They can
Right.
find articles and fiction of mine,
Hmm.
including some kind of scary crime fiction where where I kill off a couple people over a pizza. So hearken to Ruth. And so there's lots out there by me, even though I don't have it all nicely organized on one website.
Right. Um, so it was
That's
wonderful
super.
talking with you.
Wonderful talking to you. I'll send you the links for those two poetry books right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers at all levels, hosted by Emma Lee from Writers Inc. Books, assisted by Remy Black and Edie Runes. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Music is licensed through Audio Jungle, called Background Music Loop. Its creator is Alexander Polishchuk, known on Audio Jungle as Plastic 3. The music comes in different iterations. Show notes and resource links for this and other episodes can be found at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Write to us at winkbooks@aol.com when you have questions, comments, and speculations. We will try to answer you as quickly as possible. By the way, we will not mind your email address. That's rude. If you find value in our content, share with your writing friends or write a review. We're small beans here without the advertising budget of the big peeps, and you can make a difference. And whatever occurs, write on.